The Lord of the Rings War in the North Legacy Edition is not just a generic Lord of the Rings hack and slash. It is a cooperative action RPG that places players in a rarely explored front of the Middle-earth War, featuring 3 unique characters, deep progression, and a campaign that demands strategy, especially for those looking to get the most out of the game. In this video, I have outlined 10 advanced tips that players need to know before diving in headfirst. Stay until the end, because these tips can completely transform the War in the North experience. Maximizing hero mode is one of the factors that most significantly alters how combat is approached in the game. Initially, players tend to button mash, hope for a critical hit, and keep fighting. However, once it is understood that the glowing yellow rune on the screen triggers a state which drastically increases damage and XP gains, combat shifts from mere reaction to a cycle requiring intentional management. The secret lies in treating hero mode as a window of opportunity that must be kept active for as long as possible. Whenever a critical hit or execution lands, the mode is activated, and the objective becomes sustaining that streak. Alternating standard strikes with heavy executions whenever the critical indicator appears above an enemy's head is the correct method to maintain the streak. Taking damage during this process terminates the mode, resulting in the loss of both the damage bonus and the accelerated experience gain. This makes hero mode one of the most critical mechanics for efficient leveling, particularly for players focused on rapid leveling or farming specific abilities. Instead of defeating enemies arbitrarily, players begin planning combos, prioritizing targets that provide openings for critical hits, and avoiding overexposure to prevent breaking the streak. This represents the difference between playing on autopilot and playing with an understanding of the game's required rhythm. Mastering this mechanic separates players who merely complete the game from those who truly optimize their build and progression. Damage output increases, the power curve accelerates, and every combat encounter becomes part of a larger plan. In War in the North, where every skill point and equipment upgrade matters, keeping hero mode active as long as possible stands out as one of the smartest ways to play. The synergy between Andriel's Sanctuary and Eredon's bow exemplifies a strategy that appears simple, yet completely alters how certain combat scenarios are handled. Eredon functions as an extremely versatile character, capable of switching between sword, shield, and bow, while Andriel excels in defensive and offensive support. Notably, the dome does more than protect the group from projectiles. With the correct upgrades, it provides healing and strengthens ranged attacks performed within its area. In practice, Eredon can remain protected, recover health during combat, and fire stronger arrows without exposing himself excessively to archers, throwers, and other dangerous enemies. This tip is effective because it transforms Eredon into a magic-protected sniper. Instead of rushing into the middle of the battle, players can let Farin, or another ally, draw enemy aggro, position the sanctuary in a safe spot, and eliminate priority targets with the bow. This approach proves particularly effective against enemies dealing heavy range damage or in arenas where advancing without a plan results in being swarmed. In co-op, this combination becomes even more powerful, requiring player coordination. Andriel casts the dome, Eredon quickly enters the area, and the damage bonus is utilized to concentrate fire on tougher enemies. Using Hot Swap, the same logic applies in single-player mode by switching between characters at the right moment. The primary value of this strategy lies in demonstrating that Sanctuary is not merely a healing ability, but a true offensive platform designed to turn Eredon's precision into massive, safe damage. Beleram is more than just a visually impressive reinforcement. The Great Eagle can enter combat to turn a difficult situation around, a feature highlighted in the official game description as capable of changing the tide of battle. Consequently, spending feathers on standard enemies should be avoided. Using Beleram to eliminate an isolated orc may seem convenient, but it wastes a limited resource. Invocations are best saved for trolls, orc sorcerers, and elites guarding an area or pressuring the group with hard-to-avoid attacks. The optimal moment typically occurs when the arena becomes chaotic, multiple enemies surrounding the group, an advancing troll accompanied by distant sorcerers, or an elite blocking a path. In such cases, Beleram functions as an emergency tool and pacing control, creating space for Eredon, Andriel, and Farin to regain their positioning. In open areas, the Eagle is also useful against live targets when the invocation option is available. One important precaution must be noted. The Eagle should not be treated as an automatic solution for every boss. Certain encounters prohibit Beleram's use, and campaign guides recommend against invoking him during the final confrontation against Agandador under specific conditions. The correct mindset is to view Great Feathers as a turning point button, not for accelerating easy fights, but for transforming a critical battle into a genuine opportunity for survival and victory. Focusing on specific attributes rather than attempting to create balanced, average characters represents one of the best tactical decisions. The game system grants few attribute points per level, penalizing players who attempt to level everything equally. Specializing each hero in their primary role produces an immediate and significant increase in combat efficiency. For Uradan, heavy investment in dexterity aligns with maximizing damage using bows, precision arrows, and light one-handed weapons. He is designed to be the specialist in critical hits and rapid-ranged eliminations or ambushes. Diluting these points in an attempt to turn him into a durable tank strips away the lethality that makes him indispensable to the group. For Farin, allocating nearly all points into strength and vitality sustains his frontline presence. As an authentic tank and area effect damage dealer, the dwarf requires high health to withstand horde sieges and high strength to crush enemies with heavy weapons. Neglecting these two attributes weakens his capacity to hold enemies and protect fragile companions. For Andriel, focusing on willpower is essential to fuel her energy reserve and maintain a constant rotation of spells. Healing spells, the magic dome, and arcane projectiles rely on steady mana, making any point spent outside of magic focus a waste. An ultra-specialized trio easily outperforms a generic team, ensuring perfect synergy between tank, range dealer, and support. Shield breaking is a mechanic that rewards intentional play in War in the North. Shielded enemies neutralize a large portion of frontal light attacks, meaning that repeating the same combo results in wasted time and vulnerability. The game's tip guide recommends using a pressure action to push and break the defense of resilient enemies. Farin is particularly effective for initiating this situation. The dwarf's charge or heavy attack does more than deal damage. It destabilizes the enemy and creates the necessary instant to break their guard. The secret is to avoid continuous frontal striking afterward. Once the shield yields, the group must convert that brief opening into a rapid offensive sequence. Flanking makes all the difference here. While Farin draws attention and breaks the defense, Uradan can circle around to strike the back with precise hits, and Andriel can cast a spell or maintain distance to exploit the vulnerability. Instead of treating a shielded enemy as a target that must be defeated slowly, the encounter is approached as a puzzle. Defense is removed first, followed by concentrated damage on the opening. Caution is required to avoid using heavy attacks automatically, as missed swings leave the character overextended. Players should wait for an enemy animation to finish, approach with Farin or press guard at the correct moment, and communicate focus in co-op once the shield breaks. Raw force opens the door, but the trio's positioning truly transforms the opening into a fatal combo. Andriel's alchemy appears optional initially, but becomes valuable when difficulty demands planning. Since she can gather plants and mushrooms and transform them into special potions and foods, ignoring these resources leaves an important part of the character unused. This tip changes the exploration pace. When controlling Andriel, observing corners, side paths, and areas near arenas before advancing is worthwhile. Each gathered plant can represent an extra heal, a temporary bonus, or a saved potion for when a fight gets out of hand. Additionally, certain consumables require materials gathered by the group rather than simply relying on merchants. On heroic and legendary difficulties, spending the best potions on random combat should be avoided. Regeneration, invulnerability, or reviving items should be saved for bosses, ambushes, and encounters featuring multiple strong enemies simultaneously. Maintaining this stockpile prevents a single mistake from instantly turning a battle into a defeat, which is vital in co-op when reviving an ally can save the entire run. Establishing a routine is also beneficial. Explore first with Andriel, gather everything available, and craft consumables before a difficult mission. An achievement is tied to crafting 15 potions in a single campaign, and certain gathering nodes respawn after returning to Bree, assisting with inventory replenishment. The primary lesson is that Andriel is not merely the group's healer. With proper alchemy, she prepares the team to survive moments where raw force and magic are no longer sufficient. The challenge maps of Osgiliath and Lorien provide one of the most efficient ways to strengthen the group between chapters. Functioning as wave-based arenas unlocked after the first chapter and accessible via the world map, they allow players to farm without permanently interrupting campaign progression. Osgiliath suits developing characters as it is tailored for lower levels, whereas Lorien fits trios prepared to face harder waves. Beyond experience, these arenas offer gold, equipment, and an XP bonus upon completion. meaning a single session improves multiple group aspects concurrently. The ideal farming window occurs between main missions: entering, testing new equipment, clearing waves, and returning to town to sell, compare, or equip items. In co-op, this becomes even more engaging as players divide roles: Farin holding the front line, Aradon clearing priority targets, and Andriel maintaining heals and support, while searching for superior gear and set bonuses. Turning farming into an immediate obligation is discouraged. If the campaign remains manageable, players should continue advancing and return to the arenas only when enemies begin demanding better equipment. The true value of challenge maps lies in flexibility. They do not replace the story, but serve as a repeatable training ground to accumulate XP, currency, and loot without disrupting the adventure's pace. Notably, they are not required to unlock all game achievements, so farming should support individual progression styles rather than become a mandatory chore. The core concept of critical socketing with elf stones is simple yet powerful. Whenever an item with empty slots is found, it automatically rises on the priority list, as correct stones will be socketed there. Among elf stones, the most valuable options provide active power regeneration upon critical hits or lifesteal. Consequently, higher attack frequency and critical rates yield increased healing and resource availability for abilities, which proves essential during prolonged encounters and higher difficulties. This fundamentally alters gameplay. Instead of interrupting combat to consume potions, players maintain pressure, utilize offensive and support capabilities freely, and convert dealt damage into sustain. For builds focused on critical damage, prioritizing power per crit elf stones combined with lifesteal is nearly mandatory. For tanks or defensive characters, pairing this with damage reduction and primary stats, strength, stamina, willpower, depending on the class, ensures extended frontline survivability without relying on external healing. Finding an item with high defense or raw damage is insufficient if it lacks slots. An item with slightly lower base stats but the correct elfstone slots delivers significantly higher long-term value. Therefore, the golden rule for loot routines is, slotted items take precedence over pure stats, and among stones, absolute priority goes to power regeneration, lifesteal, and damage reduction, followed by secondary stats. Adhering to this ensures endgame builds remain fluid, less reliant on consumables, and well prepared for heroic and legendary difficulties. Hot Swap represents the change that most profoundly transforms the solo experience of the Legacy Edition. Instead of remaining locked to a single hero and hoping AI behavior functions correctly, players can switch in real time between Aradon, Andriel, and Farin, utilizing the exact tool required for any situation. Encounters can begin with Farin drawing enemy aggro and holding the front line, followed by switching to Aradon to eliminate archers, sorcerers, or isolated targets. When the group gets surrounded or requires healing, Andriel can step in to cast support and area spells. This constant switching turns combat into a sequence of deliberate decisions. Farin creates space, Aradon punishes openings, and Andriel keeps everyone alive. Control over AI companions is equally crucial. Character switching alone is insufficient. All three characters must be equipped, skill points distributed, and coherent roles established so the AI remains effective when uncontrolled. Aspyr presents this feature as an addition novelty, allowing equipment, skills, and capabilities to be assigned to computer-controlled allies. Farin can be built as a tank and crowd controller, Aradon as a stealth, critical, and range specialist, and Andriel as a magic support with heals and area damage. Reviewing inventory between chapters is also advised, as leaving a strong bow, piece of armor, or skill unused weakens part of the group. Hot Swap should not be treated as a simple shortcut. It turns the solo campaign into an active fellowship management experience where players control the rhythm, composition, and group response to every threat. Focusing on the crushing blow, ranged skill tree, and maximizing explosive bolt converts Farin's range damage into an ability that not only deletes entire groups, but also melts trolls and bosses in a few shots. What makes this build broken is how explosive bolt scales. Greater investment in ranged and critical damage causes the skill damage to escalate disproportionately, particularly when combined with items that increase area of effect damage or elite damage. On heroic and legendary difficulties, where survival and sustained damage are critical, having an ability that quickly clears hordes and bosses relieves pressure and allows for a more aggressive playstyle without getting bogged down in protracted fights. The synergy with Warcry completes the package. While Explosive Bolt handles mass damage, Warcry provides the necessary survival layer to avoid dying while positioning for shots, especially when surrounded. This establishes an efficient cycle. War Cry absorbs initial damage, Explosive Bolt clears the screen, and if things escalate, the player retreats, waits for cooldowns, and repeats. The final and most advanced touch is Hot Swap. Instead of playing Farin continuously, another character, such as a Raiden or Andriel, serves as the base, and players switch to Farin only when a horde clearing button or boss burst is needed. This maximizes party efficiency by using Farin as a surgical tool rather than full-time, while still carrying the game on higher difficulties using this skill.